Coming up this week on the Just Lifestyle Show, there's me and Gary, and we've got lots to talk about. We've got court verdicts around Sonos, we've got new builds of Windows 11, we're talking about Synthfest and some of the stuff that's on there, brilliant retro computer section as well that's well worth talking about. We've got news from Microsoft and lots more, so let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
And we've no Richard tonight again because he's off somewhere else. His carbon footprint is terrible.
Oh, it's terrible, yeah. I mean, he's off to HashiCorp today, so to learn all about Terraform, which will mean nothing to most of our audience, but means quite a bit. So,
yeah, he can explain it to us next week. Yes, I'm sounding a bit sniffly tonight because I think I'm just fighting off a cold because my lads had proper like coughs and colds and everything. So I'm hoping I'm not going to get what they had. It's that time of year, isn't it? I think.
It is definitely that time of year. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, we've got plenty of things to talk about this week. I want to talk a bit more about the Surface Go. I went to Synthfest, so I can tell you all about that. We've got some new builds, a couple of new builds, and a change to the way that they're doing releases on the beta channel.
Yeah,
because they like to change things.
They like to change things around.
Yeah.
So I've also got a court decision to talk about, so I'll talk to that later.
Oh, excellent! Oh, we always like a bit of legal news. Right, so let's start off with say Synthfest. So Synthfest, we obviously had the Paul Gilby on from Sound on Sound a few weeks ago to talk about Synthfest, and it was on over the weekend. And but first, what a really brilliant event! Really enjoyed it. So it was up in Sheffield at Sheffield University in the Octagon, and it was first. It's got to say it was a really well organised event. Obviously, Gary, how hard it is to put on these events.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, from my point of view, anyway, it went really well. It was signing in, everything straight easy. There's a lot of exhibitors there with a lot of interesting stuff, and not just all the music stuff as well. There was some computer stuff as well, so I definitely can talk about that. There was the idea is it's a community event effectively, but you had manufacturers in there as well, so it kind of reminded me of like the what was it, Gadget Show Live type of thing, where you had lots of different, a bit of CES, that kind of thing. But the Octagon is a nice octagonal room, and they organised it with the stands in there, and there was some other rooms as well. So you had current big manufacturers like Korg and Yamaha with all their brand new gear. You had boutique like Moog Moog, and you had proper built boutique, guys making these little modules, synth modules, drum machines, all that kind of thing. So it was a real range of stuff that from the big manufacturers to the small guys. So yeah, it was a really great event and a lot of hands-on. What I've got some video, so you can check out the link for that in the show notes. But what was really interesting that caught my eye, being the retro computing geek that was from Liverpool Synthesizer Group. There was a guy there had a full Yamaha studio, 1980s studio, being driven by a CX5M, Yamaha CX5M computer, which runs MSX.
Those are the days.
Yeah. So I don't think we've ever really had any. When we've done retro computing on the show, we've had different fans of different things, but MSX is not something we've ever had. It wasn't really that big in the UK, was it?
Wasn't, no. I mean, it wasn't that big anywhere from Japan, but
yeah.
Okay.
So it was. So wasn't it, MSX was Microsoft's operating system, wasn't it? Kind of.
It was ASCII Corporation. Yes, that's a.
Yeah.
I just remember that because the ASCII. It wasn't anything to do with ASCII as in character, but
yeah.
It was which is a Japanese company, and basically Microsoft and then collaborated to actually come up with, and I think Mitsubishi was one of the first providers of them, if I remember rightly. Yeah, I mean, it was meant to be a really sort of a standardization of that sort of computing, which I guess eventually became the IBM PC. Went down that route, but it was.
It did, didn't it? Yeah, because you had different manufacturers, didn't you, all doing them.
But yeah, there was a lot of debate about what MSX actually stood for as well. Because I heard it called was Microsoft Extended, which Microsoft had not denied. I think it was something like it's. This never hung right because it would be MSE, but machines with software exchangeability. I think that's what it was. But there's lots of possibilities on it. But,
yeah, well, that makes sense because I can get to the clip on here, but the CX5 that was being shown there was running the custom Yamaha music software, because in the CX5 itself is the chip from a DX100, an FM chip that was that was part of that setup, and it had a cartridge in it which was your music composition and sound editing software. And so what the guy was saying was that you could boot up this MSX, boot it up in 7 seconds into the music recording software or to the music editing software. Now you'd have a job of getting 7 seconds from cold boot from a Surface straight into the music software. But that's what this could do. So the MSX was really impressive. But it was nice to see, and it was nice to see one all fully working as well. So it had the cartridge in with the music, and it was hooked up to all this retro music stuff. So there was a DX5 and the TX81Z, which is a rack that big with 8 DX7s in it. So there's a big rack thing like that. So it was the idea, this was your whole studio. Before you could record to digital audio workstations, you were recording to tape, but you could do this whole thing. So it was great what they were showing there. So I was really impressed with that one. Another one that the name might ring a bell is Synclavier. Might ring a bell to you.
Yes.
Synclavier was the music production system early 80s, but it was thousands, hundreds, almost 100,000. It was a complete sort of music workstation, digital workstation back in the 80s. It cost thousands, and they've brought it back with the Synclavier Regen. So that's the Synclavier I've got on the screen now. So it's got all the patches and everything else and many of the features, and it's designed to be a hardware unit that you can run itself. You don't necessarily need a computer to run with it, and you can use it for compositions, sound creations, everything else. So that's the Synclavier Regen. I thought I was quite impressed with that one.
I can't remember if it was advertising or one of the people using it said this phrase, but the phrase at the time was that this Synclavier, it plays music and costs as much as a house.
Yes, it did definitely cost as much as a house as well. Yeah, I got some other stuff, hands-on stuff. Here's Mellotron, which is the old tape-based system. Think of the Beatles, Strawberry Fields, Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin. This is a recreation on digital with samples, but basically the same hands-on control. So unlike an app where you can get a Mellotron app, this is a real hands-on thing with the same connectors as well. So that was pretty impressive. Now something I didn't get a video of, but I did see, was a guy brought music creation software to the ARM chips. So the music tracker. Do you remember the music tracker software where it was kind of a scroll down thing where you could get it to play music, and they were used a lot in Commodore Amigas and that kind of thing. It's like samples.
The sample based thing. To be honest, I hadn't played with it at the time, but I remember one of my friends who had a.
Well, he's written this music composition software for the ARM chip native, so you don't need an OS on it. Or is the OS this ARM, and it had it running on a DS, Nintendo DS. He used to sell it or use it and distribute it on netbooks, because the netbooks went away. So now he's got a little hardware unit of that as well. But that was quite interesting to see. Yeah, so there was a ton of good stuff, and there was obviously a lot of modern kit. There was a brilliant talk, and I only included clips on it, but I think the Synthfest guys will have the clips on this, by 40 years of the DX7. So it's the 40th anniversary of the DX7, and one of the chaps was one of these the chaps on the presenting, Dr. Mandy Finesse. He was the sound designer for the DX7 too, and that came out. So he was brought in to bring out new, fresh sounds for the DX7 too, and they talked about the evolution of the DXs and right up to the modern day stuff as well. So that was pretty cool as well. So there was so much there. I really enjoyed it. Interesting though, unlike many of the trade shows we got, there were things to buy. So I didn't buy anything, but if say Korg had stuff off and it was like maybe instead of £400, it was £350 or something like that, so there was a bit of discount on everything, which quite often these show deals, you're not quite sure if they're really good deals, but these were fairly good deals, because you can check online what the prices are, and they were good deals. So a lot of the manufacturers had them, and they seem to be doing good business with them as well. People going, carrying bags of gear with them as well. So that was quite good to see. There was a nice range of ages as well. So there's young people there. There was a couple of older people there. In fact, you could tell who they were when we got to where the DX5 was, and all those older kids and similar ages to me were like, oh, I remember that. So a really good event. Talks were great. Whole thing was really well organized. Enjoyed my trip to Sheffield, so that was good. So there's a video of the highlights, a 20-minute video on our YouTube channel, so yeah, you can check that out. But did a good day, and thanks to Paul Gilby for inviting us up there, and I did enjoy that. I didn't buy anything though.
Well done. I'm surprised by that.
I think it's more of a case of there's no space left now. But one thing I have found, though, and I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago, is I don't know if it applies to all technology, but it certainly applies to music technology. If you don't keep getting the latest shiny thing and actually have one thing and really focus on it, you get a lot more out of that one thing. I suppose it applies to everything in life, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So, for example, that the mod wave that I've got, I've had it for not quite a year yet, but rather than looking at shiny new things, I've actually spent quite a lot of time in it. So I'm up to my third video guide on it now, of programming it. So that'll be out probably next week. Part 2 was out this week, part 1 out last week. So I've spent a lot of time doing sound design on it, and it crosses a lot of things. It's I've done a lot of Windows tutorials in the time, and this is, it crosses into that, because you can bring anything into here, but you need to use other tools. So there's some tools you've got to download and everything else. So it brings it all together. So I've got some of that, but I did find that rather than just thinking, all right, I've learned this one now, I'll go on to the next one. I actually know I'll see what I can actually do with this, and the more time you spend, you get rewarded from that. So it's not always good just to go and get the latest thing, but it is very tempting when you see a shiny new drum machine. I'm sure I could fit one of those in somewhere. So those videos for those tutorials are actually online as well, so they've been having some good traction. I know what has been getting lots of views is my review of the Surface Go 4. So I've had it for a couple of weeks now, haven't I? So I've actually got to spend some time with it. So it's actually a really good device. It's a shame that they're sort of hiding its light under a bushel, but it is actually a really good device. So I've been using it for doing blog posts on there, meetings, browsing, that kind of thing, watching YouTube videos. It's a nice tablet and a good Windows laptop as well. So a lot of people ask me about the benchmark. So I don't know if I mentioned this last week. Might not have published it then, but I have actually got round to publishing the benchmark, Geekbench. A lot of people ask me about, so I've posted those on there as well. So there's a video on that, and I've done an article on that as well. It was quite interesting. You get, obviously, I didn't think about this at the time, but you get different results depending on whether you're on battery or you're on best performance mode or whatever. So I didn't think about that. So when I first ran the Geekbench test on it, I did it on. I was just sat on the sofa, so I was on battery and it was on the balanced mode. And then so your scores are very low, but because they're not, that's just other people have been benchmarking it on best performance charted. So yeah, I've actually ended up having to do that. But to me, the benchmarks are more realistic. How you would use it, and in my case, I use it on mostly on battery. I don't really use it on charge. And in fact, a lot of people ask me about battery life on this. So, but because when I was doing all the messing about with benchmark, I have been putting it on charge. So I haven't really been able to test the battery. So I'll power this on now. So I haven't last used it on battery last Thursday. I've been using it on and off all the time, and it's on. I guess that's about 80%, something like that. So the battery life seems pretty good on it, but I can't really do a full test until I let it go all the way down, and then I can add up. You can go into Windows, can't you, and add up how much time you spent on it. But anyway, so I did do the benchmarks on there, so there you can see. So it's on a single processor on battery on balanced mode. It was slightly faster than Surface Go 4, but on a multi-core task, it was a lot faster. So depending on your usage, if you're doing something that you with software that uses multi-cores, and you'll find the Surface Go 4 has a much better performance. So you can see here, this is in performance mode. The Surface Go 4 single core is 1,134, whereas the Surface Go 3 was 694. So there's a big difference. But on multi-core, it was a lot better as well. So yeah, there's a big jump in performance, really. Although I would say I'm not sure if anybody would ever really upgrade from a Surface Go 3 to a Surface Go 4, because there's not that much of a leap unless you've got a real. I can't see the use case where you need to get that extra performance of a Surface Go 4. But if you've got an older device like me with the Surface Go, the original one, or maybe the second gen one, then it is a nice performance jump. What I've noticed, it is very responsive. But Windows often is when you first install it, but this one does seem to be pretty good. Windows 11 works well on here, and of course it's running I put it on the release preview as well, so I've got the all the new features on there as well. So with the pen, so be able to write and stuff. So yeah, it's been good. So I've really enjoyed working with the Surface Go last few weeks, and the only thing I found on it is the Surface Laptop Studio, the one I'm using now. Although I'm wearing my glasses now, if I'm sat on the sofa, I can browse the web without them. The Surface Go is just a little bit too small, where I should I think, I better put them on. So, but that's not the device's fault. That's my eyes. But yeah, I have enjoyed the Surface Go 4. So if you want to look at the benchmarks, I've got those on there, and I've got a video with the benchmarks on as well, and a video with the unboxing and initial impressions. So I think I'll probably wrap it up with one more video when it finally runs out of charge, and I can talk about battery life. But you can see it's how it's targeted as field workers and that kind of thing. It would be pretty good. If you were enterprise rolling out your business applications, you wouldn't have to think, is my small device going to be able to cope with it? Because this is this will be fine for most applications, unless you've got something really heavy where you're not going to be doing sort of intensive graphic rendering or something like that on a small device like that. But for line of business applications, I think it should be good. So yeah, that's one reason why I couldn't buy any more synths, because I've been spent up. Okay, we'll talk about window build changes, but we'll change gear. You had a court case. I want to hear the court case before we talk about these changes.
Yeah, so this was quite something, actually. So I don't even remember, probably about a year ago, Sonos won a big court case against Google about the multiple audio system. Well, in a case, in an appeal which was heard this week, Judge William Alsop said that it is wrong that our patent system was used in this way, and basically tore into Sonos for trying to punish an innovator to enrich a pretender. It's basically what he said is that they've misused the patent system. They've put several patents together which shouldn't have been put together, and they basically have come out to attack Google for as prior art, when the actual fact that Google has actually been innovative and actually done stuff up on top of Sonos's patent. So he's basically thrown out the court case and said that 2 of the key patents are unenforceable. Now, Sonos are arguing against this and are going to appeal it, so it'll go back and forth a bit. But this is really interesting because Google very recently turned off their multi-room audio system, and basically because of this court case. So those features have disappeared, which a lot of people were up in arms. And it's another case where the consumer doesn't benefit from this. I mean, basically, the way the consumer would have benefited is if Google had been forced to pay the license fee to Sonos or something like that. But in fact, they were told to stop using the technology. So there's a lot riding on this for other companies as well. So we're potentially going to attack some other players in the world who've done multi-room audio. Although if you look at some way some of that's been implemented, it's definitely using different approach to what Sonos did. But equally, this could be ruinous for Sonos. So it's one of those things which is very difficult to see how Sonos can keep funding this battle going forward. They don't have the revenues that Google have. So yeah, very interesting case. It's good. We'll see how the appeal goes. But Google have actually said they are going to start bringing back these software features they lost fairly quickly. So yeah, even while the appeal's going on. So that's kind of interesting.
Yes, this was around the multi-room side of things, wasn't it?
Yeah, multi-room audio, which, I mean, Sonos, to be fair, Sonos were the first people to really do this as an integrated package with the in-room system. So they do have some prior art on it, but the specific things they were going after in that patent challenge, which are not there. Because I believe there was some licensing already going on for some of the other bits of the patent. So, yeah. So one of the things that apparently the judge just really did not like was that Sonos altered some of their documents after the fact. So yeah, this is definitely interesting. That's I mean, obviously that's all I'm just getting from various articles. I mean, I'm quoting The Verge there on the fact about that, but there's definitely a lot of information out there if you want to have a look. Reuters did a really good article about the whole case, so very factual. But yeah. So it was. So the Alsop said it was a case of the industry leading with something new, and only then an inventor coming out of the woodwork to say they'd come up with the idea first, being fresh claims to read on a competitor's product from an ancient application. So it's wow, yeah. So. And he also said that Sonos wrongly linked a pair of patent applications in 2019 to a much earlier provisional application from 2006 in an attempt to claim a priority date before Google's disclosure and product releases. So yeah, it's lots of interesting things going on in that world.
Yeah, it's kind of the multi-room. Well, Amazon have got a multi-room, don't they?
They do, yeah, and I think that takes a slightly different approach. Did hear that they were potentially one of the targets for Sonos as well. And I've not actually heard anything actually happening there. So yeah, but yeah, it'd be hard. I mean, if they lose this one, it'd be very, very hard for them to sue anybody else.
Yeah, and they've got to be careful. I mean, like you said, Google have got very deep pockets.
Yeah.
Whereas Sonos don't, and they're already quite a niche product anyway, aren't they? So yeah. I got to be careful. In fact, I'm next year going to be redoing my kitchen, and I think my plan was to take my Alexa out and just put one of the new Sonos in with the Alexa built into it. Maybe that's why the Amazon don't, and because they've already got a deal, haven't they, in place with because the Alexa.
Yeah, they're probably paying the license fees, so they're probably
Yeah, because they've Amazon. Yeah, because you can get the new Sonos. They've got new, not even new, the last few years that they're built in. So yeah, I thought of just getting one device rather than having a speaker and just the Alexa, and just getting the one device and sort of mounting it out of the way somewhere. So yeah, that was a plan. So hopefully they don't bankrupt themselves trying to sue Google.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not many can make that. Could do. There's not that many companies can take on Google, really, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. On the home automation front, anything new going on there? Oh, actually, I've got something new to tell you. Yeah, go on. But you got it.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned the Echo FP2 a couple of weeks back, which is the presence sensor, which is, I have to say, is a brilliant concept. It uses microwave technology to actually sort of detect very small movements. So instead of it's way more of a presence sensor than a movement sensor, so it can detect things like heartbeat or people breathing. So it can really focus on someone in the room. And for a while that was great, but they updated the firmware and it doesn't seem to be quite so great at the moment. Because it's so, just want to sort of flag up and warning people that the latest firmware seems to be causing issues with it being able to work out that you've left the room. So you get what they're calling ghosts appear. Now I'm told there's a firmware update coming to fix it, but at the moment it's pretty useless, to be honest, with what I want to use it for. So, which is a great shame because it is a really clever device, but it shows how software can mess things up if you get it wrong. So I'm hoping to see that come fairly quickly. I mean, the car have been pretty good at getting updates out, so I think they'll fix it fairly quickly. It doesn't seem to affect everybody either. So some people say they're still fine. So it may be down to placement and other things. I mean, one of the problems is because it's detecting small movements, it could be thrown by things like fans which move or anything sort of kind of vibrating can cause it to see a ghost. So it maybe it's got oversensitive and they may have upped the sensitivity and that may have caused problems, but yeah, hopefully that will be fixed pretty shortly and it'll go back to being a great device. But
yeah,
I mean, it's a really clever concept and I certainly should see more and more of that type of concept coming out, because it's feasible for it to detect multiple people in the room. It's also feasible for it to work out exactly where you are in the room, so you could actually detect movement in one direction. So, for example, I had a routine set up so to work out if I was leaving the room just by the direction I was going, and that it would turn off the lights. But it wouldn't turn off the lights if I just stood up or moved around in the room, but only if I actually physically left the room. It would work out. So, and it's. And it was quite clever. I could be really clever with it. I could start dimming the lights as I was walking towards the door. So I'd get time to adjust. Things like that. So there's lots of things it can do, but it's an interesting problem that's occurred with it at the moment.
Yeah. Actually, talking about presence, that's what I was going to mention to you. Yeah, I've got the Whiz lights and some Whiz plugs, which I actually quite like. Actually, one of them is this mobile one that I've got here, which is a nice light. It's got some nice colours on it, and a smart plug. One of the things, there's a new version of the Whiz app, which is pretty good. But one of the things when I went into it, that it gives you the option of doing, I could get it quite to work, is presence detection, just as you were talking about. But it was presence detection, but it uses a couple of devices. So I'll see if I can find out how this. Let's see if I can explain to you how it works. So I think I go into automation. Yeah, it's called Space Sense, and what it does, it uses combination of devices to work out where you are. So they use it to determine movement and where you are, and then you can incorporate it with your routines. So you need two devices. So you need like a light and a plug, and I think the picture they have on there is too light. So I'm not quite sure why it needs two. I suppose that's to do some triangulation or something like that.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So the idea of this is it can detect the difference between movements of people and movements of animals, disturbances, whether it's motion or whether so it's not like a PIR sensor. It's more of a, they have the terms of a beacon and a processor. So you need a beacon and you need a processor. So you could use your light as your beacon and your plug as a processor. For mine though, it didn't work because for some reason it says you need both devices to be on the same. So basically you pick a device as the beacon, which is say the desk one, then you pick a device as a processor, so say the light, and I do next, and it says you can't set them up because they need to be on the same Wi-Fi, but they are on the same Wi-Fi. But maybe it is that version of the device isn't compatible with it. But I did quite like the idea of that you don't need a separate sensor. You're just using the combination of devices. It's using Bluetooth. That's the core of it. So I guess it's using two devices, so one there and one there, and it can sense the signal strength changing of the Bluetooth or something like that. But yeah, it's quite clever. I mean, I'm not sure how it would detect a pet which hasn't got Bluetooth. Maybe they Bluetooth to each other, and it can detect some variants in it. I'm not quite sure. So yeah, it seems quite a good technology. It's just a shame I couldn't get to work to test. But I do like the idea of it, that you can use your existing devices to have a bit smart capacity. I don't know if you come across that one before.
That's good. That sounds really clever. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. If I get it working, I'll give it a try. And it's getting that time of year, so I've got a new smart home thing to try soon. New twinkly Christmas lights.
Oh, cool.
These are called Candies. These are new for 2023. So I've not done the video of these yet, so I'm going to have a look at those. But they're indoor ones that you can put around the home or something like that. So it works with the Twinkly app. So I do like my Twinkly light panels. But, so I'm going to give that a try. And I've now got some outside ones. Got them, and I got this light panels. So that's my third Twinkly device. I do like those. So. But it's that time of year when you're a smart home enthusiast can make the most of your lights, isn't it? When it gets to Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, I actually got. I don't know if I showed it. Did I show this doorbell thing I got last week? I may have done.
You talked about it. I think I didn't see it.
Yeah, I thought I'd hold up to the camera because I wasn't able to share it last week because I wasn't doing it. But I think this is really neat. It's quite tiny. I mean, it does just the one thing. I mean, it's a car. It's a car. Toya. So it's Toya smart thing. So it's on the Toya Wi-Fi system and uses the Toya Smart Life app or the Smart Life app to work and talk to your phone. It doesn't do a lot else. I haven't been able to get it working with much else. It doesn't work for Alexa, for example, which is a shame. But it's only about £3 on some of the apps, the Chinese apps. So it's probably the cheapest doorbell you can get, and it actually comes with a ringer as well, a USB powered ringer. So
they pair up, and then you
pair up automatically, and actually that works really well. And I was looking at someone who actually hacked one of these to do other things, but I haven't look at how you could do that to maybe play some other sounds. But yeah, I mean it works. It's USB charged, and it does seem to last an awful long time. And it only shows video when the button's pressed, which is quite good. But it does seem to do what it's supposed to do on the tin. And when you press the button, it starts a video call to your phone. So if you've got the app on your phone, you can then answer it and have a conversation with yourself. But yeah, no, it works well. But it's amazing to see some of this stuff coming out now, which is so cheap. Someone was actually telling me this is potentially compatible with some DVRs. So it may be sending out a signal like a pickup on Blue Iris, but I haven't quite worked out how to get to it yet. So I'll have to keep trying to see that as. But that might be quite good because then you could just record when someone presses the doorbell, and then work on that basis. And that way I might be able to get it into Alexa because I can actually trigger from Blue Iris through Alexa to actually get it to ring the doorbell maybe.
Right,
But we'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of always what I wanted. never quite got it to work that well. So when some triggers my front door camera, which it's the Arlo, it's not a bell, it's just the camera looking at the front door, it's to automatically show it in the kitchen, but I never quite got it to work. You can tell it to show in the kitchen, but even then, it doesn't always work. So it's never quite done what I wanted it to do, though. So it's still quicker to just get your phone out than it is. But yeah, you've got a screen there, it'd be perfect just to show that. But yeah, I'm sure I've got to be able to get it working at some point. But I'm not sure whether it's a signal issue, but it's never quite as good as what you thought it is.
Indeed.
Oh, just talking. Something else I wanted to mention while I was talking about those Synthfest videos. I took my portable recorder, my old podcast one, which you've spoken to many a time.
Many a time, yeah.
Yeah. And I filmed, so I used that for audio, and I used this Galaxy Note on one of those little, holder things, one of these type things to do the video. I had some issues with the SD card, so in the end, I just used the audio from the phone. But you can imagine in those environments, it was really noisy. So you've got the guy from the synthesizer club talking about that, but meanwhile people are playing the synthesizer next to him.
Yeah.
And he was quite quietly spoken, and I was kind of pushing not wanting to get the phone too close to his face and everything else. So yeah, so the audio was a bit quiet for me, his voice and some of the other ones as well. So I had to look around for some sort of noise improvement or audio improvement tools. So in the past, I've used Audacity or one of those tools, to add a bit of background noise removal and maybe a bit of phase cancellation to try and improve it. So I've done that with filters and whatever. But I've found quite a few AI web sort of services now that do the same things. One I used, which had a sort of a 20. It was like a token system. You got 20 tokens for free, and then you paid 10. I think it was £10 or €10 for another 20 or something like that. But anyway, it's called cleanvoice.ai, and you'll be able to hear it on the video. But some of those interviews that I ran, so I extracted the audio from the MP4, uploaded it to this, did the cleanup, downloaded it, resynced it with the video in the editor, and actually it worked really well. So when you listen to it, you might think, oh, it's a bit of a noisy background, but compared to what the original audio was, which was a very noisy background, you're in a big area with lots of people talking, lots of voices, plus audio from synthesizers and drum machines and everything else. Actually, it comes across really well. So it was so good that on the Synclavier one, as he demonstrated the sounds, they weren't there. So he's pressing the keys and you can't hear them at all. So I actually had to bring back the audio in from the original so that you got his voice and the audio. So I was quite impressed. I've not used any of these sort of AI tools for audio restoration, but when I compare to how I used to do it for, say, at CES or the Gadget Show or one of the shows that we've been to, there was quite a lot of work to clean them up ready for the podcast. But these tools certainly make it easier. So if you were doing it on a professional, you could just pay whatever you said. There was subscription models and all the usual things, but there was a lot of these services available as well. So I was quite impressed with those. So the whole thing was quite good. And also another tip, if you're doing any audio editing, I don't know how long this has been in the Windows Store, but I came across this. It's called WavePad. It's in the Microsoft Store, the Windows, the Microsoft Store, but there's iOS and Android versions as well. But it was a really good tool for extracting the audio from the video files. So you could open the MP4, it just extracted the audio, then you could edit it and save it, as a WAV file. Plus that had all the effects like noise reduction, things like the traditional noise reduction type things, but you could also do compression and all the usual stuff. So that's something you quite often want to do, is extract the audio from the MP4. So that's a good tool, and it's free version from the Microsoft Store. So a combination of that and this clean voice, I think I've got the audio pretty good on some of the stuff. Some of the interviews I did were in a quieter area, so I didn't bother, but particularly the one with the synths, it was particularly noisy, so I think that worked quite well. So I was quite impressed with that. It's amazing, isn't it, how the AI
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking actually that there was a really interesting article this week about, I think it was the University of Bath. They'd done some research about how if you do a deep fake of yourself teaching you something, you learn better.
I can imagine, yeah, because it's just the whole process of going through it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess I don't know, you get someone else to teach you about something, but you put your face on them,
Oh, I
and
see. Yeah.
it actually um, is a better way of learning than having someone else teach you, or at least it gets more positive results. I'll send you a link to the actual
Right.
article because
Yeah.
it is an interesting read, especially into machine learning AI
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, it's probably
Yeah.
one of the closest things. Deepfake's one of the actual closest things I've seen to proper AI in terms of the way it learns stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting.
Well, I'll check out that, and I can yeah, I'll include links for that in the show notes as well. Final thing I just wanted to mention is Microsoft to put a new build of Windows 11 out for the beta channel today. I think they're getting closer to 23. What is going to be 23H2, which is the core, as we talked about. It was more core platform than features, which they've already rolled out. But they've made a change with this release. They were doing the thing where you could have two builds. You could have one with no features and one with features, and you could go from the no features to the features, but you couldn't go from the features to the no features.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've I'll share this as well. So the build starting from today with this build, they've changed that now. They're now using a controlled feature rollout technology and basically using that switch, which has been there for a few months now. So you can get the latest updates as soon as they're available. If you've got that selected, you get the features. If you've got it switched off, you don't get the features yet, but you will get them at some point. So it's a kind of a phased approach, which I quite like. So I wish they would do this to the dev channel, so that there was no A/B testing anymore. So you had that switched on and you got everything new, and if you had it off, you got a controlled rollout of it. So Microsoft could effectively allow you to opt out of the A/B testing and just try it. But they haven't announced that for the beta channel, but for this, for the dev channel, but for the beta channel, you've got this now. So if you've got that option set on, then you get the new features. That's exactly what I've got on my laptop here, which I'm not on this is just on release, but if you select that, you kind of get next month's feature updates early. So, and they're now using that. So we're no longer going to get these two builds. You're going to get just the one build, and they'll roll out some features to the people with the tick box, and then eventually those features will go to everybody. So I'm not sure if you're on the beta channel whether you would not bother with that, but there must be some people that do that. There's a new images as well for backgrounds because it's the 9th anniversary of the Insider program. If you're anyway, regardless of whether you've got options set or not, you'll get the ink option in some of the field boxes, like the search boxes in settings, and you're going to get the new Copilot icon, and there's a couple of fixes as well. So yeah, so that's changes to the beta channel, which kind of makes sense. It was always a bit strange to have two builds. I always wondered who would be the person that chooses to be on beta channel but not get the features, but there must be some people that do that. So you can still have that. You just have that switch there. So so it is still quite complex, isn't it? We've got Canary, you've got Dev, you've got Beta with these two options. You've got Release Preview, then you've got Release with this option, and Release Preview's got this option as well, and you've got Release with this, the standard one with this option as well. But I'm sure it makes sense to Microsoft. I'll show you the wallpaper as well. I thought they were quite nice. So quite a nice new wallpaper there for Windows Insiders. So that's, I think, just everything I've got for this week's show. Have you got anything else?
No, I think that's everything I've got. No other great court decisions to go over.
No. So I think we might have a guest from the might do a follow up to our Dr. Jez interview that we did a couple of weeks ago. That'll be next week, and then hopefully we'll have Richard back in a couple of weeks as well. So where can we find you?
You can find me at Garry WMA. That's Garry with 2 R's, as I always used to say. WMA on virtually every social media platform. So how long they'll stay on X, I'm not sure. If we actually just start charging.
If you start charging, yeah, that's it. I'll be the same. Yeah, and I'm the same. I'm on X, but it's a shame because each time they make a feature upgrade, it seems to get a bit worse.
It does,
but,
yeah.
Perhaps I'm just not the target market. Who knows? But anyway, I'm on X and Instagram and where else, but all links are on the thislifestyle.com. Make sure you check out the videos, and I will see you next week.
Take care.